11-3 run with complimentary plays dating back to last Monday after cashing in once more last night with the Golden State Warriors. And today I've got two complimentary plays for you as I'm going to take a look at the games between the Raptors and the Wizards, plus the Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, last night, of course, I cashed in personally with another 15-dime best bet winner as I was once again on the New Orleans Pelicans as they put the Portland Trailblazers on the brink of elimination in a one-sided series. Tonight, my 15-dime best bet happens to be on the game between Indiana and Cleveland. I was wrong on the first game of that series, seeking the Cavaliers in a blowout, which did not materialize as the Pacers were the team with the double-digit rout in that one. But I got revenge and came back with a 15-dime best bet winner on the Pacers in game number 2. And tonight, of course, I look for a fourth straight NBA 15-dime best bet winner and number 5 out of 6 overall. But the big play, the big featured play tonight, that would definitely be from handicapper Shawn Michaels as he goes for a 7th straight winning day with another 100-dime NBA max wager release. He is also on the Indiana-Cleveland game, and I can tell you that he's on the same side that I am on. He, of course, had last night's winner on New Orleans, the night before Indiana, the night before that, New Orleans in game number 2 at Portland. Monday night, Golden State, you got all those 100-dime NBA max wager releases for over half price off. And the same thing goes tonight by using coupon code HOOPS, H-O-O-P-S. All your other discounts and promo codes are available as usual over on the homepage. And this, of course, being Friday, you know the deal. On Fridays, there are also additional package discount codes, including the one where you can save $50 off the purchase of any handicapper 7-day purchase package simply by using coupon code SAVE50. Great coupon code, guys. Any of the handicappers that have 7-day packages save $50 off the purchase price by using coupon code SAVE50. If you happen to already be involved with a long-term package with a handicapper, you want to extend it out further, there are discount coupons that can save you money on purchases of handicappers packages of 7 days, 30 days, or 60-day package lengths. And if you have instant rebates, they are applicable as well. Should you ever have any questions, you can always contact customer service. Now, before moving forward, just a quick little note. I don't usually get involved with second half wager plays in the NBA. But, boy, last night was one of those occasions. I don't know if you happened to watch the Philadelphia-Miami game. And, of course, when I did my video report yesterday, it was about 4:30 Eastern time. And at that time, Joel Embiid was still officially listed as doubtful. But I told you that I thought in that game, in addition to giving you the Warriors as a free pick, I thought that the odds were much greater that Philadelphia would be able to come out in yesterday's game and accelerate the pace and also revert to their game one shooting form where they were far more efficient offensively from the three-point land than they were in game number 2. And in game number 2, that was the only thing that separated them from winning that game as they rebounded from a 16-point deficit, cut the deficit down to 2 late in that game before Miami was able to escape with the win. It wasn't anything to do with Miami's physicality. It was simply the 76ers, who had been so great in the second half of the season, hitting beyond the arc, couldn't hit the broadside of the barn. But at 5 o'clock Eastern time, I'm watching local TV here in Philadelphia, and that's when the news broke that after the shoot-around, it was deemed that Joel Embiid was upgraded to probable and was probably going to start. Well, naturally, the line from the game increased from 1 to 3 to 3.5. Embiid started. Now, what impressed me in the game was it wasn't a black hole when the ball went in to Embiid in the post, and it didn't disappear. He was more than willing to kick it out, and that kept the Sixers' flow and tempo up because he was very rusty. Forget about the line score. Most of his points came at the line last night. Couple of putbacks, took a couple of ill-advised three-pointers, did hit one of them, but very rusty offensively, as you would expect for a guy who's been out almost 3 weeks. But he made a difference defensively. He did not hold on to the ball. He managed to distribute and kick it back out, but what a difference. But then, what I wanted to emphasize was, every now and then you watch a game, and you could tell that the tempo and the pace of that game was simply going to wear the Heat out. You saw it at the end of one half when those teams were in the high 50s. I think it was like 54, 53 at halftime. You saw at the end of three quarters, albeit it was still a close game, but the teams were up there in the high numbers again. At halftime, you had to think about putting a bet down on the 76ers because the Heat's game is not up-tempo. You knew that team could not maintain that pace. And they did so, however, through the third quarter. But Dwayne Wade was a non-factor because Brett Brown dusted off Justin Anderson, who was pesky like a mosquito and in Wade's face and played a very physical game and took Wade out. And Father Time took Wade out as well. And you saw in the fourth quarter where the Heat simply wilted. And that sounded pretty good. That's a nice headline. Heat wilted in the fourth quarter. Anyway, and you saw the Sixers pulled away easily. Great second half play. Those are some of the type of things you have to think of when you're watching a game sometimes. In the NFL and the NBA, second half wagers, if you're watching the game, sometimes you have to consider a second half wager. It's not one of those things you do all the time, but if you're watching a game, you have to at least think about that. Okay, let's turn to tonight's games. The first game, Washington and Toronto. Now in game number one, excuse me, I get so choked up talking about the Raptors. Or maybe I should be choked up talking about the Wizards, because they certainly have choked away these first couple of games with poor first quarter performances. First quarter of game number one, they found themselves down by 10. First quarter of game number two, they found themselves down by 23. Now game number one, I used Toronto, and of course they pushed as an 8-point favorite. Found themselves trailing with about 6.5 minutes to go and then won by 8. Game number two, I thought Toronto was to play, but I also combined Toronto that day in a teaser for you, and they easily covered. And it was a winning teaser proposition. Tonight, however, I'm willing to give Washington a shot in a do-or-die situation at home. Although Washington was not a very strong play at home, no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The Wizards were barely over 500 at home, just 23-18 at the Capital One Center here. But here's the thing. I don't think Toronto's going to come out in this road game and put 44 points on the board in the first quarter like they did in game number two. I don't think Toronto's going to come out and hit 7 3-pointers in the first quarter like they did in game number two. I don't think the Wizards are going to find themselves down 23 points in the first quarter as they were in game number two. But most importantly, I don't think Bradley Beal's shooting woes are going to continue in game number three as they did in the first couple of games in this series. Listen, when John Wall was out this year, Bradley Beal just carried this team. Absolutely carried them. Averaged 22.6 points on the season. Bradley Beal in this series, however, 11 for 28. Only 9 points in game number two. 8 for 17, 19 points in game number one, but in game number two, 3 for 11, just really struggled, especially with Kyle Lowry guarding him. And in the series, he's 3 for 11 with 3-pointers. I say they are going to get Bradley Beal involved in the offense early, and I think it's going to pay dividends here tonight. The other thing is, DeMar DeRozan had a great game finally in game number two, right? Career postseason high 37 points after a so-so game in game number one. Kyle Lowry is still missing in action as far as offensively for the Raptors, just as he usually does in all postseason appearances for the Raptors. This guy never performs in prime time situations. 13 points and 12 assists in game number two. Great, you had 12 assists. 11 points and 9 assists in game number one. You're 7 for 19 in the series. You're 2 for 12 on 3-pointers. This guy has been buttressed by the performance of the Raptors bench, who scored 42 points in game number one and came back with another 42-point performance in game number two. Now, the Wizards don't have much bench. The main contributor from the bench has been Mike Scott, and Mike Scott really fueled their comeback bid in game number two, so much so that Scotty Brooks may give him significant playing time and go with a smaller lineup because Marcin Gortat has just been invisible pretty much in this series. 12 scoreless minutes in game number two. Now, they're going to get out-rebounded again, meaning the Wizards, because you go from Gortat down to a 6'8" forward and Mike Scott, but you need his offense. And I think tonight the Wizards have a shooter's chance in this game. And I think that Wall, who has played well, John Wall, and Beal are going to fuel that game in the offense in a do-or-die situation. Yeah, it's a hunch, but I like the Wizards in this game. The other game, Boston is a 5-point underdog at Milwaukee. Have the Bucks shown you anything in this series? Listen, you got one of the best coaches in basketball, a top 5 coach as far as I'm concerned in the NBA, and Brad Stevens, playing with a depleted lineup against an interim coach with a dysfunctional team that has a lot of pieces, as if you're managing a fantasy league NBA team that doesn't have any cohesiveness, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks. It just shows you good coaching, team chemistry, wins over fantasy league teams all the time that's mismanaged, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks. And I've got to take the 5 points in this one. Listen, that 120-106 win at home on Tuesday night, impressive performance. Jaylen Brown, career playoff high 30 points. How about Terry Rozier substituting at point guard? 23 points in each of the first 2 games, plus averaging 5.5 assists and 3.5 rebounds in the first 2 games. He has made Eric Bledsoe look like a chump in this series. Eric Bledsoe has done nothing but run his mouth. Now, Eric Bledsoe is not in the league because he's a great defensive player. Never will be confused with an all-pro defender, okay? But Eric Bledsoe has done nothing here other than play matador defense against Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier, when matched up against Eric Bledsoe in the first 2 games of the series, is 7 for 17. Eric Bledsoe, when matched up against Terry Rozier, is 4 for 13 shooting. Bledsoe has 21 total points in the series, 9 for 25 shooting. Milwaukee also has just been a turnover machine in this series as well. 15 turnovers led to 21 Boston points in game number 2. 20 turnovers led to 27 points in game number 1. Boston's bench has been so productive, especially Marcus Morris. Game number 1, he had 21 points and 7 rebounds. In the overtime win, game number 2, he had 18 points, 5 rebounds. Greg Monroe had a nice performance in game number 2, 12 points and 4 rebounds. Shane Larkin had 11 points in game number 2. Hell, in game number 2, the Celtics bench outscored their Milwaukee counterpoints 41-25. So you had Giannis have a big game in game number 2 with 30 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists. You had Chris Middleton have 25 points. And the Bucks lost that game. Now, could the Bucks win this game? Yeah, it's a do-or-die situation. Are they going to win it by more than 5? That's what I'm betting against. I say that Boston, a team that had 20 offensive rebounds in the series that's led to 42 points, is going to continue to hammer them on the boards. Boston, the better defensive team, is going to keep this one close. Boston, the team that plays so cohesively on the floor, is going to make this a game. Can the Celtics win it? They could. But I'm just banking on 5 points. I thought this game would be 2.5 to 3. Boston's the better team, even the depleted, injury-riddled team than the Bucks are here. So I'm going to go with Boston plus the points. Of the 2 plays, I go with Washington. I think the Wizards are a slightly better play at home. So there you go. I like Washington a little more, but I like the Celtics as well. Wish you well. Talk to you again tomorrow.